got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with, now they looking nervously. And I don't really care what you think of me, respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet next to me. I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
I shot my wife in the stomach with 38.
Why did you do this?
She enticed me and she ridiculed me throughout my lifetime. I'll see if she's alive. You alive? Yeah. I think she's dead.
Sensational.
G'day. I've spent quite a few years watching YouTube videos around what the hell's going on with men and women and society, and all of it's about dating and going to the gym and pumping iron and getting on with your career and starting off exactly well and doing all these right things. And I'm sort of at the other end of that. None of that stuff really interests me, but I can't keep away from it. And it's like, I don't understand why. I haven't got a clue why. Other than my two lads who are, one's grown up, one's growing up, they're going to be impacted by all of this stuff that's going on. And then I look around and I look at everything else that's going on around society, legislation, justice, politics, the education system, what is being taught to the generations that are going to be in the future, what you're not allowed to say, all your freedoms, discrimination at work, and all those things. And as a bloke, I'm looking at it, I'm going, how the flaming heck has this all happened? What's going on? So I did my previous video a day or two ago, and I, as I said, I've spent a few years looking at a lot of this stuff, but I've also been looking at some slightly other stuff because I'm really interested in getting to the bottom of where the hell it's all come from. And it's very easy to just say feminism and it's women and it's all their fault. And yeah, okay. But it's a bit more nuanced than that. So I'm sort of looking at it from the point of view is what are men and what are women? Why is it so different? What happened then? And I've pulled out quite a few clips from some generally much longer interviews that people are having with so-called experts, people from feminist spaces, people from other spaces where they're being impacted. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is to hear women's voices in this area when they're talking about the stuff that I'm actually interested in. And it really is interesting to hear it because they're actually arguing against their own tribe of women. And I find that absolutely amazing because actually these people who are talking are much more like men. But they also recognize their own femininity and they recognize that they need to go against some of the bits. So I've got a bit of bit of a video for you here. But it also links into what I call the quiet revolution, the silent revolution that has taken over the past 5 years and has led us to pretty much a communist society. So what do men believe in? Personal responsibility, freedoms, equality, choice, rationality, expertise, merit, reality, respect of self, respect of others, teaching, leading, obligations, etc., etc. All those concepts meld together. You can't really split them up. They require principles, and most men have a dogged determination to stamp out hypocrisy, ego, narcissism, illegality, groupthink, bias, narcissism, stuff like that. We hate being scammed. Absolutely hate it. And core to these concepts of freedoms of thought, belief, expression, where you consider many angles, you start thinking about something. What's the direction? What should I do here? What should I be thinking here? What's a rational basis for what I should be saying? And you consider all those angles and you think things through, and eventually you come to your own decision freely, one that you can take personal accountability for. But on the flip side, for women, such ideas that I went through earlier on, they're baked in the past. Feminism and female nature deems these characteristics to be emblematic of traditional patriarchal societies that women have fought against. Not only individual women, but they've banded together and come together as one single group with one hatred and one direction. And they're fighting against it, and they're winning because those things are against progress. They're being taught it at school and everywhere. That's how things were. It's not how things will be. And so those things that I mentioned earlier on, essentially men have to become another victim of the ideological push towards androgyny, 1984, Animal Farm, cancel culture, equity, not equality. Essentially, Marxism, communism in its nastiest of ways. Let's get into let's get into this this video that I've put together. I brought together a few things, and I'll stop it occasionally, and we'll go through it.
As soon as you throw out the term toxic masculinity, it causes so many men to just check out of the conversation. If you're going to tell me that there is something in me which is like original sin and it needs to be expunged from me, I need to be exorcised of my toxic masculinity, what do you think? What, like, you're really going to allow, you really expect men to engage in a conversation after the first thing you've done is say that a core part of them is something that's inherently toxic?
And I think this is the key point. The reason that I wanted to bring that up right at the very first bit is Chris Williamson nails it on the head. A core part of us is being put forward as what is inherently toxic. It is being put forward to our children as soon as they start school at the age of 4 or 5 or 6, whatever age it is, in whichever one of these Western countries promotes this stuff that we label as rights and freedoms and equality. It's actually we're telling children that if you're a boy, you should be ashamed of yourself. It's just building it in right from the beginning of life. You have been born this horrible thing. You are the snake from the Adam and Eve story. You are nasty and horrible, and you will never have what you think you deserve.
Ideology is the most powerful driver of human behavior that I can think of.
So that was Konstantin Kissin from Triggernometry, and that's going to come up later. And it's all about ideology, and that's what we are up against. It is an ideology, and it links in to this concept of equality versus equity. And it links into the ideas that everything that men do and have done is wrong, and we need to go in a different direction. So nothing about personal merit, personal skills, personal achievements gives value at all. Remember that.
And feminism was about equality, about leveling the playing field, which was tremendously important and exciting when we achieved that.
We're going to come in, we're going to overthrow capitalism. We're going to, because, you know, the Marxist idea is much more radical than what the Soviet Union even tried to implement, because the Soviet Union was in theory. It's like putting your ideas to practice, right? So this kind of concept of, you know, everything is going to be done through the state, and we're going to change the very nature of man, that human being is infinitely plasticine. You know, early on, they were talking about, like, okay, what if kids are raised communally?
So this is from Triggernometry. I've forgotten what the name of this guy is. And he's basically talking about communism and Marxism and how it developed in the Soviet Union. But there are direct parallels with exactly what is going on in the Western countries right now. This is a precise copy of. Brojo says, Michael Malice. I think you might be right there, Brojo. I'm hoping you're right. I think you could be. But he's done a lot of work to do with the Soviet Union and the history of it and how that came about. And there are direct parallels with exactly what is going on right now here in the West.
When you're talking about equality and you mean it thoroughly, it's just like, why should one child be advantaged by having loving, wealthy parents? Like, and we have aspects of that here, which I don't know that they're all entirely crazy. The argument is, why should I, who's the heir to like the Kardashian fortune as a kid, have all these advantages? I'm never gonna have to work a day in my life. You're born to a mother addicted to heroin in some, you know, gutter. We're not going to start off with the same opportunities. That's not fair. But if
I think he's hit it very much on the head of the whole concept of equity. And equity is a very specific part of how feminism and women naturally define equality. It is not fair that somebody else had all of these advantages and benefits just by dint of being born to so-and-so over here. So we're going to do something about it. And it combines with communism and Marxism straight in the redistribution of wealth aspect and in the everybody is the same concept. We're all the same. Everybody deserves the same opportunities, the same outcomes. So we're just going to plonk you into this job. You can be today's leader. You person of whoever. You're the one that's chosen. Doesn't matter whether you're any good at it at all. You're being today's leader, and you're going to be rewarded for being today's leader because you're validated, because we see inherent goodness within you, and therefore you're just as good as somebody who actually has the skills to deliver leadership. This is the difference between a way that men think and a way that women and current society thinks. They think that equity and egalitarianism, communism, Marxism is the way to go, but they're not calling it that. They're still calling it equality, although some have started really pushing the equity base. But the bit about the babies, the children, they're not yours, They're the communities. Fascinating, because we've heard some of that.
If they take it to the extreme of, well, why should one kid have more love or a better parent than another? We're just going to take the kids and raise them all together by professionals. The government teachers are going to raise them. They're going to be trained in this. Not like, look, every mom and dad's winging it. That's not fair to those kids. We need to have professionals and experts raising them. And don't worry, the mom after work can go visit her kid if she chooses. This was the model for their whole country. And some of it, they had enormous pushback, and some of it they implemented. But the whole point is, this is a new scientific society. You guys are old fuddy-duddies. You're doing things just because your grandma did it a certain way. We're starting from scratch, and we're rebuilding it nice and clean along scientific principles. None of this emotionalism, this kind of bourgeois sentimental, like, oh, I love my kid. No, 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 no. This kid doesn't belong to you. This kid belongs to everyone.
I just buggered that up here, haven't I?
Change the very nature of
men. Find it.
Have all these advantages. I'm never gonna have to work a day in my life. You're born to everyone.
That was it. What? I've lost my train of thought now. Let's keep going.
Unfortunately, to get this to the BBC or Channel 4, which in many respects is even more vehement with their not wanting white people, you would have to be from a minority background. Mm-hmm. So are you going to be okay with being behind the camera and we would have a journalist from a minority background in front?
Again, it's about egalitarianism and equality and diversity and inclusion. We've got too many white males, white men who have all the expertise, they do all the work, they've got all the skills, they put all the effort into it. But if we're going to present it, we don't want white males presenting stuff. We want somebody who doesn't have these opportunities. We want to just insert somebody who hasn't done all of the hard work and give them the kudos for it all, because they're going to deliver it. So it's not about merit. It's not about equality of opportunity. It's about equality of outcome and egalitarianism.
Ideology is the most powerful driver of human behavior that I can think of. And you can get people to do incredibly awful, illogical, irrational, self-harming, harming their own children, which is even worse than self-harming things, simply because they've been presented with a worldview that they've fully bought into.
And we've all seen this through Christianity, through other ideologies, and now we're seeing it through some of the diversity ideologies where we'll go and mutilate children because we're not going to protect them from their own strange ideas and help them to understand what they're going through the raging hormones that might be going through their prepubescent, just prepubescent and pubescent bodies. But no, we're going to believe you. We're going to believe exactly what you're saying, and we're going to chop your bits off. We're going to fundamentally change your physiological structures. We're going to fundamentally impact your ability to procreate in the future because you've decided you're something else. And this is being promoted by the teachers, by the legal systems, by the politicians, by the whole of society, for such a small proportion of people, on the basis that under no circumstances can we cause these people any harm. And if you deny it, if you deny what they say, you are dehumanizing them. That's their argument. You are causing them irreparable harm. You are causing them to be stigmatized.
Feminism today is all about advantaging women at the expense of men, and it's become very much caught up in the demonization of males.
Basically, we can start by saying that society has changed a lot over the past 30 to 40 years. And many of those challenges have been great for some groups, for women especially, but they have not necessarily been so great for men, especially working class men. But men of all kinds seem to be feeling a sort of malaise. I mean, we can tick off a couple of statistics, right? When it comes to education, first, women were finally allowed to go to college, which is great. But right now, in most colleges, we're seeing that women, outnumber men hugely. For every 100 undergraduate degrees, bachelor's degrees that women get, men only get 74. And, we saw a huge wave of kind of college dropouts basically during the COVID-19 pandemic. When you look at the data, 70% of those who just sort of like gave up and left school were men. You can look at health statistics. So, we've talked about deaths of despair, deaths from suicide, alcohol-induced illness, or drug overdose. 3 out of 4 deaths of despair are men. You can talk about, wages and workplace achievement. So wages have stagnated for men since basically the 1970s, either stagnated or fallen for all men, but the men at, the top of the economic ladder.
So this is a lady called Christine Ember, and she's talking to Chris Williamson. She's a feminist. She's talking about masculinity. Her background is she is an opinion columnist. She's an author. She's a member of the editorial board for the Washington Post, the WAPO. So you're not expecting her to be anything other than aligned with the progress that feminism wants to take. But she has some interesting things to say, because she is talking about exactly those things that we find problematic, we being men, and clearly some women.
And now 50% of women say they make as much as or more than their partner. Women can have children by themselves through artificial reproductive technology. The LGBTQ movement has achieved more acceptance in society, but it also seems to have kind of made the question of gender even more unclear. If you can change your gender, if sex doesn't really mean anything, what does it mean to be a man, actually?
So what does it mean to be a man, actually? If these are the questions that are being asked by the people who are doing the research and the people who are really looking into it, this is something that we've got to define. I put my position and my definitions in my last video and some of it at the beginning of this video. But there's a lot of men who are sort of falling by the wayside. And I'm wondering whether a lot of those men are those that have been brought up in single female households, just with their mother. They've never been taught anything about masculinity. They've had no role models. They just spend all of their time playing Xbox, or I don't know, with other female members of their family, and they haven't got a clue what to do. And of course, they are indoctrinated with all of the ideas that there are in this space from the feminist side of things. Not only indoctrinated that, but they are prevented or pushed away from looking at anything to do with male or masculine subjects. Because, as we heard earlier on, masculinity is toxic. It is that core aspect of what makes a boy or what makes a man is toxic. It's bad. It needs to be got rid of. So you can start understanding why our society has gone down this route. And it'll become a bit more clear as we get through this video.
In media culture and in progressive spaces, frankly, there's been this reflexive push to say, the future is female. Men suck. Like, men are garbage. Masculinity is toxic. those are kind of acceptable things to say now. And, telling somebody that the person they are, like that they are toxic, obviously doesn't make them feel good, obviously doesn't make them feel accepted by society. And, when you say, okay, men are toxic, masculinity is toxic, what's the alternative? Like, what does a good masculinity look like? And I feel like the most common.
That's exactly what Chris Williams said. It's exactly what I've been saying. It's exactly what a lot of other people are saying. It is possible for anybody in society to perfectly, legally, happily stigmatize and discriminate against men. Do it against anybody else under any characteristic that you have no control over, and it's classed as hate speech. But men, no, we'll put them down. Patriarchy. You've had all your advantages. We're now taking them away from you. We're going to chop you off at your knees, and you will suffer for the sins of everything of the past that we say happened, and it was all your fault, despite the fact that you spent all your life digging down the bottom in a coal mine, sucking in all of that dust, and then dying of some absolutely disgusting, horrible, cancerous disease 20 years earlier than your wife, who, because you made her run a bath for you every evening when you came in with your disgusting black covered clothes on and your face all blacked out because of the dust from the coal mine, you couldn't be bothered to run your own bath or whatever. It's like, what the hell's going on in this society? Do they think that every bloke in history just had an easy life? Oh, thank you, dear, I'm going to work now. They put their shoes on and their bowler hat, and they twiddle off in their suit with their umbrella in their hand, and they toddle off to work, and they actually don't do anything at work. They just put their feet up on a desk and they chat away about women and what they're going to do to women, and they're laughing all their sexist jokes all day long. They don't actually do anything. They probably have a snooze at lunchtime, and then they come back and then they beat their wives, every single one of them. Is that what all these people have been taught? Is that what they think life was like for people in the past? And that's why there's patriarchy. I've no idea what the fuck it is that these people think. However, we'll carry on, because they clearly do find that anything and everything to do with men is toxic and needs to be eradicated.
An archetype right now is like the male schlub. He lives in his mom's basement.
So I think recently.
So that male schlub, he lives in his mum's basement. The Homer Simpson type role model that's put through on the TV, the stupid husband who can't get anything right in the house. I've got a problem with this, the way that we always frame this, and we always go, rah, this is not very nice. We got no good role models for men. This is what we do. We're men. We take the living piss out of ourselves and each other all the bloody time. We will have produced this schlob in the house as a way of just taking the mickey out of ourselves. I have no problem with it whatsoever, because that's what we do. Because we're men. We take the piss out of ourselves and each other all the time. And it's funny. And we don't believe it. I'm wondering whether there are areas of society who are actually taking this to heart now. And they're going, this is what men are like. Probably because they don't have any men in their lives, or because they want to achieve some kind of political outcome. Thank you, bro, Joe. Don't listen to this socialist bloviating Brit. Okay.
About boys' education. We just started to notice how badly boys were doing vis-a-vis girls. We have really very much feminist ideology infiltrating all our education systems, systematic programs to continue to advantage girls, and no one taking any notice of the fact that boys are falling out in huge numbers. The girls are 2 years ahead of boys on average. This is the first time ever we've seen a generation of boys who are going to be less educated than their fathers. That's really chilling. And no one cares, John. No one notices any of this.
One word that she used in there, infiltrating. That's exactly what's happened. This has been an infiltration. It's been a very silent, quiet revolution. And they're winning or they've won. They have achieved what it is that they wanted to get out of this. But they are still able, with their fantastic doublespeak, they are still able to claim that they remain in the minority, the yoke of patriarchy, and it has to be got rid of. The only way they will get rid of it, they will get rid of patriarchy, they will get rid of masculinity, is by eradicating men. That is their goal. It's impossible to achieve, of course. It's sort of hyperbolic. I admit it's hyperbolic, but a lot of them would like to do that. They would like men to be far away, somewhere else, just doing manly stuff, building the infrastructure, down in the mines, producing the commodities, manufacturing the items, and then shipping them to the women and to the top 5% of men that all the women want. And that seems to be what they want. They want the rest of us. The rest of us are already invisible to all of them. They would like us to be physically invisible rather than they just have to switch us off in their minds.
There's this cultural shift, and part of that cultural shift is driven by the fact that women now, as you mentioned, they're more in positions of power, and so their interests, the interests of women have more power in institutions. They probably, if women are taking over the media, they're taking over science, they're taking over all of these positions, and they're particularly concerned about their own interests. They're going to focus on that even as the problem disappears over time.
Now, this is Dr. Corey Clark. She is speaking to Chris Williamson, and she's a behavioral scientist. She's also an executive director and co-founder of a collaboration research center at the University of Pennsylvania. She's a visiting scholar in the psychology department. She has a PhD in social and personality psychology, and she's got her own podcast called Syphilipod with a P at the front of it. And I'm pretty sure it's not to do with sexually transmitted diseases, but I could be wrong there. Let's keep on going.
We had academics and everyday people estimate discrimination against men and women in hiring contexts in these audit studies where, you're randomly sending in job applications to real jobs with like a female or a male name. And as I said, we see this flip around 2009 where all of a sudden, even for male stereotypical jobs, the biases favor women. They've always favored women for female stereotypical jobs. But among everyday people and academics alike, everyone assumes it's the opposite. They assume that there's this huge bias against women in hiring for male stereotypical jobs.
Yeah, so this is like a mystery shopper type of thing. They expected a big bias towards men. What the science has found is that there is a big bias towards women, a massive bias, and it has had a massive impact on society.
They look at just the underrepresentation of women in STEM and say, well, there can be only one explanation. Obviously, we're discriminating against women in STEM. And it's not, maybe women don't want to go into STEM. Maybe they like other things more.
That's that bit about taking an extreme, a little bit of extreme right at the end. Just looking at STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, maths. Oh, we need more and more and more in there, in those areas, because those are the areas where there's lots of progress, lots of advancement, lots of money. You make more money out of it. But women don't want to do it. But they'll use that one little bit and they'll go, it's not about women not wanting to do it. It's patriarchy. It's male social constructs. Parents are still stopping their children from being able to look at the world in a non-pink, non-blue way. They must stop them from looking at it as blue and pink, male and female. They have to offer all of these other things. And it's like, what the hell? Women choose different stuff. We've seen it in Finland and Sweden. The most equality-based societies that we have. And as they become more and more equally based and everybody expected everything to come together into 50-50 and much more equal absolutely everywhere, no, it went the other way because women have the freedom to make choices, rightly so. And they choose not to do that shit that men like to do. But they'll still argue it. They'll still argue that it's your fault, you men. You're stopping us. It's patriarchy.
But I Google imaged men are stronger than women, which is just empirically correct on average. Of the like 40 first images that popped up on the screen, I think like one of them was yes, confirming that. And then there were like 2 neutral, and all the rest were images of women being stronger than men. So women running faster than men, women like, raising a man over her head, and so even when you Google this fact, men are stronger than women, everyone's like, no.
So, I mean, this is a very clear and required point to make out, which is that these lies, these untruths, these desires, these ideological requirements of this ism, this movement, is to take over what you find on the internet as well. You cannot believe a thing that you find via a Google search, because whatever it is that you're looking for has an ideological bias to it, because it has been forced to give you a particular result rather than the truth.
There's also, moving into higher education, a lot more women who are going into higher education not only as students but also as academics too. Mm-hmm. How has this changed academic culture?
If you look for men and women, if you look at men, I think it actually goes ever so slightly up. But for women, it's like huge. They were a very, very small minority decades ago, not even all that long ago. But in the past few years, women are dominating at the undergraduate level, way more women than men. There are more women in graduate school, and now there are actually more women who are faculty as well. So you went from an institution that was run almost entirely by men, and the people in the institution were almost all men too, because the students were men too. And now it's a majority of women. And I don't want to say it's the only cause. I don't think it is the only cause, but I do think it is probably a primary contributor to a lot of the cultural shifts that have been happening in the past 10 years, because they all prioritize the values of women. So if you look at stuff, for example, people wanting to do these trigger warnings when they're teaching topics in class. If you look at the cases of scholars getting attacked or fired or harassed on social media for studying, potentially controversial topics, those are skyrocketing.
So Dr. Clark here has done all the research. She's done a lot of research into this area and is basically proving that everything has flipped. instead of coming to an equality, it's flipped. It's gone towards superiority, not equality. And that is having massive impacts on science, truth, education, children, general society, and on reinstilling into women that their ideas are better than the old ideas, because it has to be better, because the old ideas were patriarchy. The new ideas are feminism. Therefore, feminism must be better than patriarchy because it's what they're aiming for. It's the utopian idea of it can only be better, as opposed to testing it to see if it is better.
Have been some of the most prominent or most prestigious journals in all of science, the Nature Springer family of journals, that have put out a series of editorials over these past few years saying that they would not publish and potentially would retract science that has like potential to undermine the dignity of human social groups, whatever that means. And so it's all of these like harm concerns and these concerns about protecting vulnerable people that are starting to interfere with a process that at least at one point was supposed to be, well, we're going to pursue the truth. You know, if it hurts some people's feelings, you know, so be it. That's not what we're concerned with. We're concerned with, you know, finding out what is empirically correct about the world and sharing that information with our students. And so if you look at all these, and then the growing, the bloated DEI initiative divisions, whatever they have at these universities, all of these things are, they all kind of concern the things that women would be worried about. And so you're getting this exact pattern happening at the same time women are essentially taking over academia, and now they're probably holding more positions of power. They're the editors at these journals. They're the presidents of the professional societies. They're the administration. Changing the composition, the gender composition of academia, I think pretty much has inevitable consequences that are going to prioritize the interests of women, which are to protect the vulnerable from harm. And they're also way more egalitarian. So they want everyone to kind of have the same outcomes, whereas men are more hierarchical. They're more comfortable with like some people are going to be better at things than other people, and those people are going to get benefits for that. I've known women who, you know, I know a lot of women in academia, and a lot of them are like pained by the process of grading. Like,
I just felt it was important to jump in to comment on what she'd previously said, because the next bit is probably the least important aspect. But we have actually moved away in science, in academia, in searching for the truth, and we are our institutions, those institutions that we trust to go forward with science and with trying to find out what is going on in the world so that we can actually correct it or do something about it, or at least know what it is and be able to take it into account so that we can react to it. No, these things are actively being prevented from being put forward and being published, and people lose their jobs if they attempt to even make some of these claims. And that is exceptionally concerning.
Like, they don't want to give anyone a D, which I get. Like, it's not fun failing a student, but that's kind of part of the process. If you just give everyone an A, it sort of loses its meaning. But that's painful to women, to not have everyone be thriving equally all the time. So men are
to not have everybody thriving equally all the time. Egalitarianism, Marxism, communism, everybody's exactly the same, despite the fact we're all completely fucking different. It is not about merit and skills and expertise. It is about everybody being equal. Women find it very difficult to grade people accurately, she is saying. And these are professors at universities. These are the people that are giving out degrees. They find it very difficult to grade people accurately because they want everybody to be a grade A star. It's exceptionally concerning what is going on in our society.
Are used to creating coalitions, figuring out who's a good leader, who's good at what, giving that person status to make sure the group works really well together. So they're very comfortable with the fact that some men are going to rise to the top because that benefits the whole group. If we have a strong leader, we all live. Women were not participating in that so much. They were being protected by the men, and their primary job was to care for offspring and keep offspring alive. So they have this concern for things that are vulnerable, and they want to protect them and help them. Among psychology professors, men are more supportive of pursuit of truth as like the purpose of science than women are. They're more supportive of academic freedom than women are. Whereas women think we need to be balancing these things with moral concerns and harm concerns. So you get these, evolved gender differences between men and women, their personality, and then you change the gender composition of an institution, and it can fundamentally change the goal of what that institution's trying to accomplish. In the case of science, like truth, so long as it doesn't cause any mean stereotypes to be spread about anybody.
Put simply, men are relatively more interested in advancing what is empirically correct, and women are relatively more interested in advancing what is morally desirable.
What happens when you change the majority representation in an institution? Because it's the majority of men hold view A and the majority of women hold view B. So whichever group has more people, they're going to be the ones whose priorities win. Women,
as opposed to truth and science and evidence and objectivity, which is now all being challenged. All of these things that we as men take for granted as the things that are most important are all being challenged, every single aspect. They are all of these things: equality, choice, rationality, expertise, merit, freedoms, personal responsibility, etc. All these things that men take and hold close to their heart are classed as patriarchy and must be removed from society.
men actually think that it's good that they're like that, right? So to people who think academic freedom is obviously this really important thing, and obviously science should be pursuing truth, we look at these statistics and we're like, well, shit, like this is really bad. Women are potentially causing problems in science and academia. But when women see these statistics, they're like, finally, like we're saving it. We're making it a safe place for everyone. And we're making sure that science does good. It doesn't do harm. And there's another paper that looked at this, like the priorities of scientists. Men they have this sort of like basic interest in understanding the world and like figuring out what's true and figuring out how things work. Whereas women do science because they want to cause good in the world. So their motivation is, I want to know the truth, but I only want to know the truth if it's going to help me help other people. Which means that any truth that doesn't help me help other people, and especially any truth that potentially could harm other people, is not valuable. And we should not be pursuing it in science and academia.
And this lady, Dr. Corey Clark, has actually been doing all of this research. I just don't make it up. I'm taking it from the mouths of people who know what they're talking about. I'm bringing you the actual evidence, the people who are doing the research, and are generally being lambasted for doing it and attempted to be cancelled for doing it. They're bringing you the reality of what's actually going on. And it is very, very disturbing what's going on.
And
Right.
being able to hold two conflicting viewpoints in your mind at one time is really important. Like, look, women can hold this view, and to them, it is the truth. Men can hold this view, and to them, it is the truth, right? Like, it's a case of trying to bridge that divide, I think, to help people understand, okay, from first principles, what are we trying to achieve? And I do think that it would lean more toward the male side of this. It's going to be toward the men. It's going to be truth.
Which is exactly what we would expect to hear from a man. And yet, if somebody else had given that conclusion from a different gender, I won't try and claim which one, because apparently there's hundreds, they might have had a different answer. But everything that men actually stand for is over.
Got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
I shot my wife in the stomach with 38.
Why did you do this?
She enticed me and she ridiculed me throughout my lifetime. I'll see if she's alive. She's alive? She's dead. I think she's dead.
Sensational.